subjects of planet Molagar. It is I, your supreme leader, Dr. Molagar.
Hi?
I make this now, my imperial decree, that the great plan to conquer the galaxy is well underway. Soon, my subjects, soon each of you shall play your part in the greatest scheme this lowly sector of space has ever concocted. What say you, my minions?
What?
Is this thing on? I swear, I just had it installed.
Dr. Molagar?
When I've conquered this blasted galaxy, I shall make shoddy voice amplification equipment illegal!
Dr. Molagar?
What? Who dares to interrupt my auspicious proclamations?
It's me, Rachel Droid. I'm the only one here. Well, me and these robots, but none of them seem to be powered on.
Oh yes, that's right. You are the only other sentient being on this planet. What use is it to be ruler when all your subjects are witless accumulations of metal and circuitry?
Hey, I'm an android, thank you very much.
Just because I decided to spare you for undisclosed reasons does not entitle you to insubordination, you nickel-cadmium-based ninny-hammer!
Well, can I at least do something instead of being locked up here around these non-functioning robots? Their empty eyes freak me out.
You do possess an insider knowledge of the consortium. I suppose you are fit to serve on my high council as an advisor for the time being.
Lucky me.
Now then, as you are well aware, galactic domination is a risky business. One must manipulate the powers that be through indirect and subtle means, utilizing stealth and secrecy, lest my position be given away.
Weren't you just talking over a loudspeaker?
To further safeguard my anonymity from the consortium, I require an overhaul of my public image. What do you suggest?
Well, I'm no expert, but charity work is always a great way to cover up any misdeeds. You can always organize a grassroots campaign around a good cause.
No, not my public image. My public image. I must look unassuming, but at the same time devilishly handsome. No one suspects beautiful people of foul play.
Oh, well... You could start with some hair.
Yes, of course. Hair! The most important and desirable of superficial features.
I mean, hair isn't everything, but okay.
You shall secure some hair for me at once, using these silly catalogs I found on the Space Net.
These are for young teens. Also, they're from last month.
I'm not interested in the past, but preoccupied with the future. A glorious future, with me and my magnificent mane of malevolence upon the galactic throne.
Fine, I'll put in some orders. So, what's my budget?
You may take it out of the Raygun Readers' salary. Just, not too much. I don't want them to notice and start asking questions.
I wouldn't worry. I've been working with those for 2 years, and they barely remember what day it is most of the time.
Indeed. My tracking device shows they still haven't left that public house of ill repute. They probably exhausted their earnings on, I don't want to say it out loud.
I wish I was there.
What was that?
Nothing. Just looking for your next tyrannical to pay.
Good. I shall soon make my presence known to the wider galaxy. Soon they shall bask in my magnificence and wonder at my flowing locks.
Hey, I need a credit disc for this.
This podcast often contains controversial or mature topics. You have been warned.
Are you talking Ram Lazar?
Yes.
Yes. There's a good musical part in that movie.
I don't know if I would characterize any of it as good.
Okay,
Certain ones are more fun to sing than others. That's about all I could say.
It's got catchy. The violin part is good.
Yeah.
What is the joy that I get from this boy? I don't think there's any good parts. I think there's just amazing parts.
Oh, there are. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. It's amazing.
Like, the movie itself is amazing, but there's not anything good.
No. No, not at all.
Oh, we're splitting hairs. Like, this is just lingo talk now.
Woo. Okay, that's fine. I'm ready to go when you are to do the actual thing.
Paprika, say something offensive.
Offensive?
Yes.
Oh, no. Abysmii, look out there into the void. In front of us, there's a fence.
Okay.
Well, that's the podcast ended. We'll see you guys later. God.
You really had me scared there.
There's a galactic fence. What are we gonna do about it? We have to get around it.
There's a gate. Like literally a hinged gate in the fence. I see it on the other side of the scanner.
I'm not playing along with this. I'm not doing this. You had one job.
That's not how it works. That's not how improv works. Players with us in this space.
You have to always say yeah.
No.
Or if you say no, you have to have a good reason. Come up with a reason. Say no.
You want a good reason? That entire prompt is a good reason to say no.
Say no to drugs.
Say no to fence jokes.
How about, like, that's not a fence. That's the enemy.
That's
the enemy, the completely racist aliens of Tau Beta 4.
Tau Beta 4, man, don't go there. Ever.
No. Yeah. They're super racist.
Against whom?
Why they look like a fence.
I hear their poetry sucks ass too.
I think you're conflating this with Hitchhiker's Guide.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
It's not that it sucks ass, it's that it's really cringy because it's full of racist things.
And they're not even like really they're not even like really hostile racists. They're just like casual racists, which is somehow worse.
Yeah.
They just send out hate mail now and then. They circulate.
Yeah.
They don't do anything.
Yeah, there's a planet. Their economy is all microaggressions.
And they use phrases like, now I'm not saying that I'm racist or.
But I am.
But I am.
I don't mean to generalize, but certain stereotypes. How does that come up on the Galactic Economic News Network? Macroaggressions are up today in a third quarter improvement.
The different stereotypes come on different types of stereos.
Okay, you're fired. That is your last terrible pun tonight. Welcome everybody back to Raygun Readers, where
Paprika makes Abysmii look bad.
You do. You make everything about the recording process more difficult to spite me.
Wow.
Every time.
I didn't do anything this time.
Don't even start with me. And with us today are our great friends from Earth, David and Kaela.
Hi there.
Hi, people of space.
I'm glad to know that we were able to actually get a signal out that far.
Mm-hmm. Well, we fixed the ship. We managed to upgrade the transmitter and receiver sections. So, it's coming in pretty clear. I'm happy.
They could tell it was us because
great improv, Abysmii.
That was shut up.
They could tell it was us because we played Rem Lazar music, and they're like, "Oh, it could only be David and Kaela."
Well, that's what
Rem Lazar was in fact created by aliens for alien purposes, so that makes sense.
That does make sense, actually. That's why it's such a bizarre. I mean, I get that they're actually trying really hard, whichever alien species created it, to try and make it seem like it was made by humans, and I have to commend them for that. But it's just off-putting enough that I think they need to do their homework more.
Well, it's interesting because the music from Rem Lazar is basically our version of SOS. So when that first got broadcasted out, we thought you guys were in trouble.
Oh, okay, I see.
Because of all the alien religious fanatics.
That makes sense.
The cult of Rem Lazar.
I wish we had a cult of Rem Lazar as opposed to a whole group dedicated to Thetans and Xenu.
Yeah, they'd be a lot more chill.
Yeah, because then they just recognize that everybody has Rem Lazar, and we'd be fine.
What is the Xenu?
You haven't heard?
No.
I was hoping you could tell me what a Xenu is.
I don't think that's real.
Oh, it's this great Earth invention. A bunch of people got real high and kind of ran with it in the wrong direction. It's hilarious.
They ran into oncoming traffic. Wait, what?
Hopefully, they ran into the ocean.
They ran far.
Oh, so he gets away with it.
Yeah,
they ran so far away. They ran all night and day, but they couldn't get away.
All right. So what are we talking about today?
We're doing a movie review, which I think we've only done 2 others on this show, which is Star Wars: The Last Jedi and Venom.
Which was like our highest view count.
Oh, of course, because, Star Wars. Yeah, we've only done 2 other movies, and so I wanted to do another one, and we all watched a wonderful old retro science fiction film from 1956 called Forbidden Planet.
Dun dun dun.
Turn it up.
Turn what up?
Thing we've been talking about. Turn it up. I want to
Turn it up?
Yeah, turn it up.
But he's an idiot.
I don't care. Turn it up. I can't
You
hear it
can't.
properly.
No. I'm not listening to this anymore. I can't handle
Go
it.
into the other room. I don't care. I want to watch it.
He has this like wrong idea about the nature of belief, and I can't handle it.
Well, that's because of your own inadequacies and your own shortcomings in your belief system. So you clearly need to be here to watch this.
What? No.
Yes, that's how it
everything
works.
I believe is a fact. So.
Oh, how convenient
Yes.
for you.
Hey, did we come in at a bad time?
Oh, hey, what's up?
We could go back. We
No, I don't want to watch this. Let's talk about the movie. I don't want to watch this anyways.
Yeah,
Fine.
we finished watching Forbidden Planet. We did a real bad, and we feel incredibly sorry. So we're going to give you an incredibly detailed analysis of the movie, because not only did we watch it, we borrowed some stolen alien technology to actually watch it a second time, but in a nanosecond, that flashback experience into our brains. So
I had to take at least like 4 different Excedrin throughout the day to get
Perfect.
rid of
Wait,
I don't even need to do anything.
wait. When did your planet get Excedrin?
a while ago.
Yeah.
Crap. Oh, I'm going to be in so much trouble. Anyway, moving on from that.
They're going to
sure.
discover the cure for cancer from Excedrin now.
Shh, don't
They're
tell
not supposed
them.
to have them yet.
We're going to have to wipe your minds after this. I'm sorry.
Oh, well.
Excedrin's far too powerful.
But I don't want to forget this movie. Can we at least keep the movie?
Maybe.
Yeah.
No.
Or at least can you
podcast again.
have the movie mysteriously sitting in our queue so we can watch it again?
Sure.
Forbidden
maybe.
Planet. This might be a fun watch.
Welcome back, everybody, to Raygun Readers again, where we're going to talk about Forbidden Planet again.
Or againer.
Againer. The againing.
Forbidden Planet 2.
2 Electric Robbie the Robotaloo. So yeah, okay, that's the official title. I'm going with that.
JJ Lou.
J.J. Abrams, get in on this.
Well, there was a JJ in this. That was the name of the main character.
Oh, JJ?
Yeah, but did they call him JJ? Well, I know his name was John, but they called him JJ at one point.
Oh,
Or
did they?
Jerry.
No, there was a Jerry.
There was a Jerry and there was a John.
There was a bunch of sweaty submarine men. That's what it was.
They all
My
looked exactly
favorite
the
movie.
same to
Yeah,
me.
'cause you know how like some people have said, "Oh my gosh, all white people look alike." No, in this movie, all white people look alike.
Well,
Here.
and there's definitely a reason for that, and we'll get
Is
into
there?
that.
Is
yeah.
there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. So, Forbidden Planet, as I said before, a 1956 science fiction film starring Walter Pidgeon, Anne Francis, and Leslie Nielsen, and Robbie the Robot as himself.
Bravo.
And yeah,
Most talented robot in Hollywood.
absolutely. Does not get nearly enough praise. Needs to
No.
have more.
Is he actually from outer space, or is he a creation of Earth?
Well, was created by Dr. Morbius, not on Earth, so technically from space.
Huh.
Yeah.
He created him with the knowledge he got from the Crow, right?
Oh, that's true.
Yes.
Yeah.
As
He's
like
pseudo-
a hobby.
He's a pseudo Krell. He's pseudo Krell tech, like
Hmm.
inspired by Krell tech.
That's-
Indeed. So yes, Forbidden Planet, old science fiction film, very, very, very influential. Even if you have never seen it, you have definitely seen stuff inspired by it. George Lucas, when he was working on Star Wars, definitely inspired by it. If you just look at the freaking the opening yellow text on black background.
Jeez.
And also definitely inspired Gene Roddenberry to make Star Trek, although famously Roddenberry said, well, denied that he was inspired by Forbidden Planet, but if he was, he did it better, which is such a Roddenberry thing to say.
Well, I mean, like this whole movie plays out like an episode of Star Trek.
Absolutely.
Well, also
except without the diverse cast.
Also, Twilight Zone inherited a bunch of stuff from them. So basically, if it weren't for Forbidden Planet, Twilight Zone wouldn't be it.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I guess that's true.
Yeah, it's just having seen this multiple times now. Every time I watch something that's clearly influenced by Forbidden Planet, I just kind of do a double take. What was everybody's? I don't know. Did you like the movie? Let's start with that. We'll go Paprika, and then Kaela, then David, then
Me?
I. Yes.
Me?
Yes.
Oh gosh. Well, I'm intrigued by this movie. I wouldn't say I like it. I think like I said, it plays out like an episode of Star Trek. So liking it is like, yeah, it was all right. It's nothing amazing. It's just like watching an episode of a TV show that you're particularly fond of. So in my opinion, I think it's beautiful. There's a lot of wonderful work into it, and I'm intrigued by it because you can watch, like, there's so many like precursors in this movie that it's just like entertaining to just pay attention to all the little finite details.
Very visually intriguing.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at on it.
I liked it. I think there's parts I have problems with.
Sure.
But which we'll definitely get into. But I feel like the first half was like, okay, this is okay. This is kind of nice. But I think once the Krell gets discussed, that's the most fascinating part.
Yes,
like
absolutely.
the last half, like that last half, it's just like that sucked me. I'm like, okay, you got me, movie. Like you really got me. Like before that, I was like, yeah, this is okay. Like you said, it feels like an episode of a sci-fi TV show. But yeah, it's the last half that I'm like, I'm here for this.
Yeah, for sure.
I felt like I kind of agree with Kaela. We talked about this too. I feel like the movie has a slow start, even though it has some, I think, actually pretty decent world building for how it establishes the way things are in the what is it, the 2200s that this is supposedly set?
Yeah, that's
2290 or something. Yeah.
I love the fact they say at the end of the 21st century, we landed on the moon. I'm like, give it another 10 years, honey.
But we all know that was faked by Stanley Kubrick. So we actually still haven't landed on the moon yet. So.
Of course.
Yeah. No, honestly,
that was fake and Star Child was real.
Yeah.
The thing that stuck out to me, of course, is I think the movie has some pretty strong points. And I think I really started to get into it around the same time Kaela mentioned, when they started getting into the more sci-fi concepts, when they started talking about the Krell, about their technology, about the secrets of the planet itself. That's when I started to really feel like I was getting invested in that universe.
Right.
Prior to that, I was being creeped out by the actions of the crew.
Good crew.
Oh, God.
Creeping on the daughter.
Yeah, I felt so bad for everybody involved in but mostly her.
There's a point where I was
because I feel like this is not okay. I realize this movie is a product of its time. You know, it's 1956, but like, not only do I feel like it was a bad time for Altera, but it's a bad. It gives the it gives men in general a bad rep.
Oh yeah,
and it feels so shoehorned in. Like
the movie had to have a romantic angle because it's a movie.
Yeah, like they're already on a rescue mission you know, there was already motivation for them to want to rescue the two
Well,
characters
they
on
were
the planet.
they were only there because they heard that he had a hot daughter. Let's be honest.
We're sending you out, men. There's a hot woman alone on a planet.
So here's the funny part, like, because I'm watching this, and they said they're coming in after 20 years. So this
30 years or something, yeah.
No,
it was 20 years.
Was it 20? Okay, 20.
Yeah, because I
Flash baked into our brains. Remember, we went the extra
yes.
mile.
So, Anne Francis, or Altera, is the character's name. She's 20, and there's a point where I'm like, yeah, sure, she's 20. Yeah, this 40-year-old one. No, she was only 25. So when the actress played her, I was so shocked. She looks like she's 35. I mean,
She didn't look that old to me.
I think she looks older. Like she does not look like a 25-year-old to me, but
It's the makeup, the way they do the makeup. That's on purpose.
yeah.
Well, that's a 50s thing. Like
Yeah.
the glamour
Totally.
kind of look does make them seem older.
Totally.
I know. It's like they're trying to make her look like a naive, innocent woman.
I think to conclude the point I was going to make, because we'll get into this, is just that I think as the movie progressed, I got more and more into it. Originally, I was just kind of along for the ride because I was like, okay, well, I was actually kind of pleasantly surprised how intriguing it gets later on, and some of the stuff that they deal with. I'm like, that's actually some pretty high concept sci-fi they're dealing with here, and I really dig the execution of that. So by the end of the movie, I would say I was very much enjoying it. So
I definitely like it. Like the rest of you, the second half is definitely more interesting than the first. But even in the first, it was very up and down. In our opening shot, which we'll go into shortly, where it's just on board the ship, I was intrigued because there's moments there and there's set design
When they
there,
drop out of hyperspace or whatever it is.
which is totally, definitely not where Roddenberry got the idea for transporters. And then just like that's awesome. And then they land, and then it's very slow, and they're talking, and then people show up and they talk, and it's like, it has.
And then you have a scene with Robbie the robot and that little speeder thing, which reminds me heavily of the speeder being driven by C-3PO in Star Wars.
Oh my god! I didn't think of that. Yeah.
It's it's very hit and miss in the beginning because there's these little bits that are really fascinating, and then it lapses into 1950s. We got to talk about things, and it's just kind of boring. But yeah, definitely in the second and third acts, it really does pick up. So yeah, no, I love it. I definitely love it for the fact that it's just so influential on so many things, not just film, but in music, which I'll get into later as well. We have a lot to talk about.
And the visuals are impressive. Like even today, I was looking like, wow, like that's incredible.
There's
like
a lot in the movie that's just gorgeous to look at.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I mean, we could probably, when we get to certain bits, I will definitely highlight what I think were incredibly good, strong points in that respect too. What I thought stood out for me. So, all right.
Cool. Well, let's get right into the plot then. So it's the 23rd century, and there is a starship that's C-57D that is going to Altair 4.
It's basically a flying saucer.
Oh, absolutely. It is absolutely a flying saucer, and it's adorable.
I know.
The inside of this, like, okay, there's so much to unpack even right here. So the first thing I noticed and that I loved was the crewmen's outfits, because they are basically grayscale versions of those silly old French sailor outfits with the striped undershirt, but everything's just grayscale. Like, they didn't even hide it, and it's just adorable to look at. And everyone does look exactly the same and has, like, the same haircut, which I think is very intentional, because they're supposed to be a military ship.
Yeah, they're supposed to be.
Why are they all blonde?
Well, no, they're all brown except for the cook. The cook's kind of a sandy blonde hair guy.
Well, and he's comic relief. So.
Yeah, and then he's
one of the few characters that stands out.
Yeah, all of them are like similar height, similar build, same color, shade of hair. Like
Same facial structure.
Look,
prominent chins.
You can give a character a uniform, but you better find a way to distinguish him other than like
This one wears a hat. This one doesn't wear a hat.
They all wear the same dad. It's like,
Not everybody wore a hat.
Well, I think it's because, like, if this is the 50s. It's still relatively early in film's history, and maybe they weren't thinking far enough ahead when they were doing the casting. Like, maybe thinking, no, we need to do a military ship, like a submarine. We need to convince audiences everyone does need to look like they serve in the military. So I need someone who fits this description and get 12 of them. That's very possible. And they wanted to better distinguish the characters with their actions.
Well, I mean, they were on a military mission to rescue the scientists as well. I mean,
yeah.
the mentality is definitely military.
But then you should somehow at least distinguish the captain from the rest of the crew. I mean, it took me a while to realize, okay, which one's Leslie Nielsen? Like, which one of these guys is Leslie Nielsen? I didn't grow up with his action films. I grew up with him in his comedy films.
Right.
So I imagine like white-haired Leslie Nielsen, not 20-something-year-old Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah, they all definitely, absolutely just kind of blur together.
It's kind of funny you bring up the whole sailor uniform thing, because they're even using shipboard terms, skipper, bosun.
Absolutely.
I'm surprised that when no one took their station, when they go to take their stations, no one blew a pipe, you know?
Yeah. So speaking of the ship, the interior design is very interesting. The giant and Paprika, you eventually cracked what that gigantic gyroscopic mechanism is.
Well, I mean, okay, so you have a globe of the Earth, right? That looks like the Earth, but this is a globe of the stars, so to speak. So it reminds me a lot of a celestial globe, and it looks like that's what it does. And there's a moment when they sync up. I think what they're actually doing is they're taking that globe and they're syncing it up to the orbit of the planet that they're now on. I think that's what's happening there.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually kind of neat.
Yeah,
you like the audience clearly knows it's used for navigation, but even as we realized that when we were first watching this movie, I was looking at it going, "What does that mean? What is this relative to?" So, but I think you're correct. I think it's just relative distance and orientation to whatever celestial body you're approaching.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
By the way, one interesting thing to point out is in an opening narration, they say men and women in rocket ships had sort of landed on the moon and that the human race had now spread across the stars. The men and women in rocket ships thing really stands out to me when you've got this all male crew.
Because the mentality of the military is still that, but you need men and women to colonize. That's what they're thinking. They're thinking proliferation.
Oh, right. Because like the science vessel that they're going to ostensibly rescue had a crew of men and women.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, okay.
But only men can shoot very comical laser guns with no
kickback whatsoever.
Pew, pew.
Oh, man. Those are adorable.
I do want to say, I think, and this will come up later, but a lot of the special effects in this movie that come with like the lasers and some of the sort of stock animation stuff was courtesy of Walt Disney.
Yes,
Walt Disney Company.
How trippy.
And it like freaking shines through it. The monster looks like it looks like it's out of like
Jungle
Fantasia.
Book.
Yeah. Oh man, that monster.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons I wanted to bring both of you on for this, is because, of course, there's a Disney connection with Animusings. So, yeah, and we will definitely get to that part. So moving on. The C-57D is launched for Altair 4 because there was it's called an Earth expedition ship, but it's basically probably just colonization sent out there 20 years in the past. So they get there and they try to make contact, and a Dr. Edward Morbius says, well, if you don't come down here, we don't need you, we're fine, move along. And Captain John J. Adams, which is JJ, of course, says, sorry, those are my orders. And the doctor says, fine, but I can't guarantee your safety. So already we have this, they don't take too long to imply It's forbidden. Oh no, what could it possibly be about? They land.
I do like how Kaela, he's like, now listen, I just want to explain. And he just cuts him off, like shuts the radio down.
And they come down onto this. It's a actually lovely planet, like the
matte paintings. Yeah.
So many matte paintings.
They land on a desert matte painting with 2 moons.
It's a beautiful matte painting.
It is absolutely gorgeous matte painting.
Yeah,
I can appreciate a good matte painting in a film.
Too.
So.
Oh hell yeah! There's a show called Space 1999, which I think was made in the 70s, late 70s, and it has some of the best matte paintings I've ever seen. They are beautiful. We never finished that show. We should try. Anyway, so yeah, they touch down, and they eventually encounter Robbie the robot, who drives up in his own hybrid car transport.
Yeah, he's like, sup, check out my ride.
Robbie's got some sick
nerds.
wheels.
Robbie, everything about Robbie is badass.
Yeah.
And, okay, now we have to talk about Robbie, the robot, who is an absolute character all unto himself.
Oh, yeah.
And is this walking, basically a replicator, which again, Gene Roddenberry, you're full of shit if you don't think that you took very, very obvious cues from this.
Well, I mean, no, I don't think Roddenberry didn't come up with the replicator. Replicator came out way later, didn't it? It didn't come out in the original series.
Oh, was that TNG?
Was it TNG or was it Voyager?
I think it was it was TNG. TNG had replicators.
TNG had watching TNG recently. Did they have a replicator, right?
I haven't got that far.
Oh, okay.
Oh, they absolutely do.
Yeah, they do. I mean, they do. But
Anytime Jean-Luc Picard says Earl Grey hot, that comes from a replicator.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
my lads. Sorry.
There's just the amount this influence Star Trek is not even funny. So
it's a little funny.
Like, there's a point where like they actually all the crewmen go into like this thing, like they disappear for a second and then return. I think what is it like to?
That was some sort of inertial compensation.
Yeah, I think they were dropping out of hyperspace, but not hyperspace because they didn't call it that.
They might have been crossing like the light speed barrier or something.
Yeah, and it's kind of like decompressing.
Mm-hmm.
But even so, like the way that,
sorry.
Even so, the way that they like how they are beamed looks exactly like.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking. It's like Scotty, beam us up.
Yeah, they sit in a little chamber. They're all on like their own little position, and then colored light surrounds them as they're standing still with electric tonalities that you hear, and then it stops. And that's exactly what freaking transporters look like.
Yeah, I thought at first, I'm like, are they getting transported?
That's what we thought too. We were like, oh, where are they going? They're going to beam down? Okay, no, they just stood there. What the hell just happened? So I do think it's kind of like their version of dropping out of light speed, so they don't disassemble on a molecular level or something.
I know light speed is already a thing and all that, but it becomes a very important term in Star Wars as well. So
yes,
like we got to go to light speed.
Well, yeah, but George Lucas is just throwing crap out at that point. He's saying light speed, it doesn't mean anything.
No, I know, but I feel like he's used that term more because of maybe took influence from that.
Probably. So
anyway,
they touch down. they encounter
Robbie.
They encounter Robbie the robot, and Robbie just shows off as he's very justified in doing. Mm-hmm. And then they say, all right, well, take us to the survivors. And they go to this house thing.
I gotta admit, I love this like aesthetic that's like 1950s House of Tomorrow.
Yes.
Like Disney did this quite a bit with like Epcot and had like this whole vision. And it's just so fascinating when it's like, this is what the future is going to look like. And it's the future, but it's so tinted by what it was like in the 50s. I love
it. Disneyland had been open for a year at this point.
Yeah.
At least a year at this point.
They might have been filming when it
That's true.
Very possible. I don't know who the set designer was, but they definitely had an eye. And this like there's plenty other movies that adopted this approach to the future, but it's the 50s, and that's as far as their imagination went. But it's lovely.
Yeah.
So the house is futuristic and weird, and
this is where the movie starts showing off basically all of their concepts. And they have this fun scene, right, where Morbius goes, "Robbie will never shoot me. Here, shoot him." And Robbie doesn't shoot him. And it was like, I think it was a little bit messed up the way that Morbius did that.
Yeah,
because he had him like threaten to shoot this complete stranger that walks up to his house. Yeah.
It's the captain too. It wasn't even like his sergeant or his doctor. It was like the captain. Like lucky that the other two didn't pull out weapons and start firing.
Yeah.
So in that way, like Morbius gives me, he kind of has the, what's the word?
Aloof.
The coding of a villain. With the beard and that sort of attitude and the voice and everything. He feels more like a villain to me than I think he's supposed to in the movie.
He reminds me of Satan at the end of that Rick and Morty episode, how he looks. With like the black
oh, you mean like, oh yeah. I'm the devil, biatch.
Yeah, he kind of looks like that.
He looks like he looks like Ming the Merciless's more chill cousin.
And you keep expecting him to say, "I'm going to take over the Earth," and then he never does.
Yeah. Well, I've trapped you here on my forbidden planet.
But that's what I kept expecting him to turn into the villain.
Yeah, but like the way he's describing, he's like, "Hey, look what I can do! Boom, 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 boom." Sorry, I added that in, but then realized we have nothing to fear. So I wanted to show off this stop motion. I hope you don't mind.
The steel doors.
Like, usually in movies like this, they're only showing you this technology so that at one point they can use it against you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it all does come up in the end, but not in the way that it's being controlled by Morbius. To get at everyone. But
also Morbius is quite the villain sounding name. Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's a very Ray Punk
like
thing.
A comic book villain thing.
Yeah.
Have the mad scientist with the goatee, and he's mysterious and aloof.
What is it with all these like mad scientists with names like Morbius or Moro something, you know? Like it's just, I don't know.
Morose.
It's almost like it's like a trend with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You cannot tell me Morpheus did not come from Morbius.
Or the other way around?
No, Morpheus came from Morbius.
Which Morpheus?
Like whatever Morpheus, the name Morpheus.
Morpheus is
the ancient Greek myth.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, sorry. I would say it's the other way.
Never mind.
No, it's all good.
I forgot about that.
Were you thinking of Neil Gaiman's Sandman?
Well, that and then also yes,
from the Matrix.
The Matrix.
No, that's Cowboy Curtis.
Speaking of which, when the hell am I getting a Sandman movie? We've had all these superhero movies and no Sandman movie.
Because they can't. Yeah, I'm taking that as a blessing in disguise. You don't want them to ruin Sandman.
Well, Neil
Zack Snyder's.
Well, Neil Gaiman's works have been adapted lately, and people have been doing a really good job. Like Coraline was great. We just had American Gods. That was a great TV show. I've heard Good Omens is amazing. I feel like as long as Neil Gaiman's
Good Omens doesn't have the alternate Horsemen of the Apocalypse, so I give it an X, not a.
It doesn't have pollution.
No, it doesn't have cruelty to animals.
Oh.
It doesn't have those guys, and that was my favorite part of the book.
Aww.
I was like, how could you not conclude that shit? That was the best part.
Man, I gotta reread.
I feel like that whole book was a setup for those horsemen. But whatever.
Yeah, who knows? So, they meet with Morbius, and Morbius is being very, very coy with, oh, no, there are people here. They all died, unfortunately. I have no idea what happened. But we're fine here, so please leave. And he really, really tries to shoo them off. But then, of course,
After they've traveled how many light years to get there?
yeah,
Just go away.
long
Go.
distance.
Shoo.
And then Altera shows up.
And then everybody like gets like hard-ons for the next half an hour, basically.
Yep.
Everybody turns into a giant fucking sexist.
And the dad is like, "No, this is fine."
Yeah, Morbius is strangely like amused
Chill.
by it. Like when one I forget who the character is because of course they all look alike. But when one of the soldiers comes over and like tries to explain to Altera what love and romance is, and they practice kissing.
Oh yeah,
like she goes, this happens multiple times, and she goes to talk to Morbius about it, and Morbius, instead of being like, oh, they're, basically forcing themselves on my daughter, just kind of chuckles to himself and says, oh, idiots. Which is weird. It's very weird.
It is weird. This movie is like, this whole part is like so uncomfortable.
I just don't understand why it's, I do understand why it's in the movie, but it serves no purpose. It's not needed because everyone goes from being very strictly interested in this kind of hard sci-fi idea of like, why is this planet forbidden?
No. This movie is geared for like little boys in the 50s. Let's be honest here. This needs to have a romantic element.
I guess. I don't know, man. It's just like if it wasn't in the movie would not suffer for it.
The entire the demographic for this movie is men. Like entirely.
And that was actually for most 50s movies in general. Like you're thinking, who's going to come into the seats? Obviously 18 to 45-year-old white men. Yeah. So, and then especially for sci-fi at that time too.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, look at the way she's dressed. Like, I think horror has the same fortune or misfortune, but like, both horror and sci-fi have been able to get away with a lot more throughout the years because they're such a niche.
Yeah.
And the difference is horror is done so cheaply that horror genre was not afraid.
Sci-fi is usually done very cheaply too, with some notable exceptions.
Well, in not recently. If you do sci-fi now, it's like millions of dollars. But in the past, yes.
Yeah, there's been a lot of... maybe that's a bit of an opinion, but I feel like there's been a lot of real cheap sci-fi lately.
Well, with as far as budget goes, yeah, you have to dump X amount of millions of dollars into CGI to have it pass for a sci-fi these days, which is stupid, but that's the world we live in.
But yeah, in the past, it was done more cheaply. And again, you could get away with more stuff. And the fact that basically this woman is running around in like this like tight-fitting dresses. I mean, it's still pretty...
There's the next scene. She's wearing like a skin-colored outfit.
Yeah, but in a weird the weird thing about it is that it almost comes across as progressive because it's a woman that has no inhibition and has no reason to have any inhibition.
And all the men, except for Morbius, of course, are very threatened by it.
Well, they're not just threatened. Honestly, they're not threatened by it. They're threatened by themselves. They're like, how dare you be naked in front of me and my men? My men can't handle it.
Also, let's go over there and make out.
Right. Yeah. So it's like this weird standard that the men are holding themselves to by saying, you need to cover up more.
Well, it's only one guy, and it's the guy she just happens to like because she makes out with the other guys. Like, I'm not feeling anything. What are you talking about? And it just so happens
the perfect female. Can you kiss me now? So let's see if I can feel anything.
There is a weird, I guess, I don't know, contradiction. Like, she is this obvious sex symbol, but she's also like, she's been educated by her father, who is, smartest person ever to live because of the Krell technology, which we'll get to.
But this is the other thing.
She's naive as far as like social cues and how humans interact.
Right.
But she's intelligent and she has weird powers or something. Animals.
Okay. Well, the one thing I also wanted to point out is that this little girl, she's supposed to be 20, right?
Yeah.
Has been in this place with her dad and nobody else. Like nobody
except
else.
a tiger. She's a Disney princess because she's got deer and a tiger.
There's the other Disney connection. She's a Disney princess.
I have more questions about that. But But the one thing I want to point out now is that she's been on this planet alone with her dad, and her dad never really shows her anything. She never sees the Krell technology, to our knowledge. So I think the movie never says that she does. So I'm going to assume that she doesn't see any of it. She hasn't used the machine, the more smarter machine. She hasn't been inside the shafts. She hasn't done any of that stuff. And
No.
like that is right there. Why wouldn't she share that stuff with someone that you're alone with for 20 years?
Well,
you know?
again, this is why I feel like it was really shoehorned in, because she could be an interesting character, but again, if she wasn't there, the story still would have happened, or you could have wrote it a way that it would have happened.
It is almost like this story didn't need her, but the director or a producer somewhere said, you know what? This movie doesn't have nearly enough tits.
Well, and like in a way it did need her, because spoilers for this 60-year-old movie.
It's not like we're not going to talk about every nuance of it in this.
No.
Yes.
Morbius, like he creates the monster because he doesn't want to let go of Altera, and he doesn't want her to go away. So she does serve a purpose there, but she could have been like a 12-year-old. And then the soldiers say, like, look, dude, you can't keep her here. She has no life. What happens when you die? She needs to, like, be given the choice to go off. And then that could be why he doesn't want to let go. But as it stands in the movie, she's just kind of shows up to be eye candy for soldiers to, you know, do indiscretions with.
And also, like,
and it's a good thing she has a replicator, because she can fabricate all of her clothes herself.
I know, it's like, well, I made these clothes myself. No, Robbie the robot seems to have interesting taste in clothes.
Robbie's just a very good fashion designer, and no one gives him any credit.
None.
You know, it reminds me of It's Always Sunny when Dennis decides to make clothes. I imagine that's the kind of clothes Robbie makes.
But it's funny. It's like, well, you're showing off so much skin. I'm like, oh, honey, I've shown so much more skin just like...
at a freaking beach.
Yeah, well, not even at a beach. Like, it's like David and I live in California. It's like people wear sundresses and shorts all the time. It's like, it's like, this is nothing. And I love the fact this is set in the future, and yet, oh my God.
No, it's not that. It's the fact that she has good looking legs and she's showing off her legs. She
does have good looking legs.
She shows up in that skin colored outfit. And because, you know, of the film technology and the lighting back then, half the time I'm looking at her going, I can't tell if she's naked or not. This looks really weird. What is going on?
There is a point where, like, she actually swims naked. Like, or
at least we think she's naked.
Well, she's not. You could tell, like, that she has a swimsuit, but the intention there is clearly she's swimming naked.
And it's just like, oh my God, it's so distracting. And not just distracting to the sailors, it's distracting to the audience. And this is a lot of the slow parts of the movie that I'm like, oh my God, I'm so bored. Can we get back to the Krell or something interesting?
Well, we don't know about the Krell yet.
True. At this point, we don't know about the Krell. But we don't know anything. Here.
But I guess she's just there because we need a romance.
Yeah, sure.
That's
not only that, we need an emotional connection as well, because we literally just have a bunch of men talking about work.
Yep.
That's true. It is a very...
There's a plot point, like you said earlier, there's a plot point involving Altera and Morbius. And I mean, Altera gets to do some stuff, just not a lot of stuff.
A little bit. Meh.
She stands out just because she's not a dude in a gray sailor uniform.
Yeah.
Or a spooky scientist with a dodgy beard.
Weird Dr. Dracula scientist.
And she looks good drawn on the cover.
That's true. By the way, the posters that show her being carried unconscious in the arms of Robbie
never happens.
Doesn't even happen in the movie.
Never happens.
No.
I love that, but it looks like, because that's like a Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh yeah.
Wait, Robbie does carry somebody. Who does Robbie carry again?
Does he?
Robbie carries heavy machinery. I don't know.
Oh, is it somebody else that carries somebody? I don't remember.
Probably.
He carries a thing. He carries a thing made of solid lead at one point, but that's about it.
Yeah.
It was. Oh, I get why you're confused because it was Han Solo and a block of carbonate. That's what.
No, somebody faints. Is it Dr. Morbius that faints because of I forget.
Oh no,
The
you're right.
doctor
It's
faints.
It's the ship's doctor. They just call him Doc. He faints after he gets put into the gadget.
Right.
Because he does carry him out because he puts him on the couch.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
On the fainting couch.
On the fainting couch.
And then by that point, the
So
dying couch.
we know who the woman is on that ship now.
Haha, you fainted. Oh man. So that all happens, and then they basically, the soldiers are saying to themselves like, okay, well, something still isn't adding up. Let's just call it a night. At night, they set up a watch, and an invisible entity sneaks past the guards and kills a dude. So clearly,
Well, the first
on the first night it doesn't kill.
doesn't kill.
It steals something, I think.
Oh, sorry. No, it sabotages equipment. You're right.
Yeah, it fucks some shit up, but it doesn't kill anybody.
Yeah, no, it sabotages equipment. The captain gets very angry. Saying, what happened? Well, we don't know. Well, what do you mean you don't know? How did anything get past you guys? So to investigate further, they go back to Morbius's house, and he's not there. And they manage to get... I forget how they convinced Robbie to let him in. But they...
Well, doesn't Robbie leave?
Robbie leave? I swear he's there.
Robbie's there, but he's just like, he's in his study. He will not come out. He's not blocking the door or anything. He's just hanging out. And then that's when, like, JJ goes out and sees Altera swimming, and then she puts on the dress. She got a longer dress made just for him because he wanted something that was. He yelled at her the day before because he's a dick,
saying you're distracting my men, and
she's like, "Well, do you like this better?" And he's like, "Yeah, actually, I kind of do."
I hate this. I hate this. This perpetuates rape culture, and I hate it.
Yeah, it's like, again, this is this uncomfortable, cringy romance that has to be in the movie, but it's so distracting and ugly.
And I blame her. She is an innocent 20-year-old who has never been around men.
She's completely naive to how.
Completely naive, has no idea what she's doing. But yeah let's blame her. What a fucking dickhead. May he go jump into a fire.
Well, okay. These are characters that were written in a time with this mentality.
Still, though.
It's like reading Lovecraft. At certain parts, you just go, moving on.
Yeah. There's something wrong with it. I know what's wrong with it. I can clarify that. Let's move on.
Yeah. Okay.
And I get they're trying to do it because he's jealous because he has a crush on her. And then when you see them make out, you realize, oh, she's into it.
Yeah.
And it's always interesting how in these old movies the men are like, no, don't treat the woman that way. And then the woman comes up to him and says, I want you to treat me that way. And they're like, oh, okay.
It would have been very forward thinking if she had a retort of, basically calling him out on his bullshit. I kind of was waiting for that to happen because, again, it was very awkward how these scenes were handled. And there was this weird back and forth, but it never goes there, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it does a little, like she pushes back a little bit.
A little.
But, I mean, I wouldn't say that she's creating a battle for feminism or anything.
No.
It's more of a battle for horny teenage boys.
Yeah.
But
so they have that weird little exchange, and then Altera's pet tiger jumps out of nowhere, and she can't calm him down, so Captain Adams has to shoot it with his blaster and disintegrates it.
So this is something that's still not clear to me. How come she's friends with the animals? Where did the animals come from? And how come she's not friends with them anymore?
I
have questions about.
Okay, the friends thing.
See, I'm confused by that too. I wanted to ask about
Okay,
that.
so the friends thing, I don't understand. What I can't explain is that Morbius explains later when he's describing the Krell had been to Earth and actually brought samples of Earth's wildlife back to Altair 4 with them.
Yeah.
So the deer and the tiger are the descendants of those animals that the Krell brought back with them.
Yeah.
That's what he says.
But then how she has weird control over them, I don't know.
But based on the premise of the climax of the story, I'm actually thinking more along the lines of these animals were also created by Dr. Morbius, and they like and hate Altera based on his mood. That's the impression that I get.
That was the other implication, yes, that everything, all life other than Altera, of course, on the planet is kind of controlled by his expanded intellect. But because of what David said, that isn't entirely clear. It's very strange.
Well, if it helps, like this is clearly a sci-fi version of the Tempest.
Yeah.
that actually is
Yes,
the intention.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that fits in. So that matches up.
Mm-hmm.
Is Robbie Caliban?
That's a possibility. But, well,
Oh,
they
no.
said he
Where's the
could
cook Caliban?
they said he could be Caliban or Ariel.
Oh, Robbie. I guess Robbie's kind of a little bit of both.
Yeah. But it's still the idea that there's this older male figure who has control over this island due to supernatural abilities, and he has a daughter, and then these people come and get stuck.
Come to think of it, JJ does have
Right.
to complete some labors, some
And
bullshit
it's-
labors.
And it makes more sense to be like the dramatic aspects of the story match more with the what is this, the original Tempest form of the story than with the sci-fi elements they're introducing in the story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense. So
Wow.
you would know more about this movie if you read classic literature.
Which luckily David and I have.
See, like, now I just want to see, Leslie Nielsen talk about how he has to place some thousands of these logs upon a Soren junction.
Get Robbie to do it. Oh, look, it's done. Yay.
How many logs do you need? I can replicate.
How much booze do you want?
Oh yeah, there's a.
Where does that B plot kick in? I'm trying to remember where that kicked in. The
Yeah.
whole
Later.
I know it
Oh,
happens
yeah.
after they get the perimeter fence up, but
Yeah. Yeah. So Captain Adams kills Tiger, and Altera says, "Huh? Well, he's never done that before."
It explodes into Disney smoke.
It does. It explodes into Disney.
Beautiful
effects.
beautiful Disney smoke.
he dissolves into that field of flowers Simba falls into in the Lion King.
Oh my god. It's all connected. So Adams goes back inside, and he and the doctor encounter Morbius, who kind of walks out of his study and goes, "Oh shit, you're here." And they confront him, and he has to eventually let up. "All right, I've been studying the Krell." Who are the Krell? They're a ancient race that were on the planet beforehand. They died 200,000 years ago. They were incredibly advanced, and he proceeds to take them through a series of lovely matte paintings and sets.
Oh, no, like this is.
No, there's some miniatures in there too.
Yeah,
That too.
this is probably the part where I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Like I love
This
them
is-
going. Go ahead.
This is the fun stuff that makes me feel like a hipster because I'm like, why don't they do this shit in movies anymore?
Yeah.
Because they assume people will be bored.
How can people be bored when you see these technical achievements? Like, this is just so cool.
Have a dragon that looks CG and comes down and shoots fire out of his mouth.
Not
Like
boring.
there's a part where like they're walking through a hall and it's like there's small specks and you realize the scope of this and you're like, wow.
I actually commented to Kaela at that moment, like, if there was a movie adaptation of I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, this is how I would picture the interior of Am.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fucking beautiful.
This vast technological space where the people walking through it are minuscule compared to like these bizarre, almost nightmarish devices. Like those things that were shooting lightning in that chasm room. Like,
yeah.
Like
it looks like the influence for in the Return of the Jedi when Luke and Darth Vader are fighting in the Emperor's chamber with the giants with the lightning, the Tesla coils coming up. Like it is a bit nightmarish, and that's definitely intention. It's supposed to be again a little bit Lovecraftian of like ancient civilization so far ahead of us we can barely comprehend it, and 20 cubic miles of this underground machine complex 9,200 thermonuclear reactors, limitless power. All just like lovely, lovely sci-fi concepts that are shown visually. They are told, but it's also like it has accompanying visuals that are just beautiful.
I think this was the point that really separated the whole, okay, I feel kind of like I'm sort of watching a B-movie sci-fi film, and then it gets to this point, I'm like, oh, no, they know what they're talking about.
Yeah,
like
no, this... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I finished. You can go ahead.
Well, there's plenty of B movies from this era where they make similar things. They make matte paintings and they make props, but there's an element of quality to this movie that is just not there for many movies. And even though some of the events that happen in the movie don't like make sense, like we're talking about how the animals are reacting, overall it's still visually stimulating to watch this movie. Whereas if you're watching like what was the name? That one guy, Attack from Space. That is just trash through and through, but it's trash.
But it's our trash.
Yeah.
So there's a small moment that the only reason I even heard about this movie is actually connected through electronic music. So there's a moment where right before they go into the big caverns, where Morbius says, here's an example of Krell technology, and it's just this little music box. And he turns it on, and it makes this weird, evolving, electronically synthesized pattern. And this was so influential. Actually, I need to back up. So this movie does not have officially a soundtrack. It has electric tonalities. As provided, and I need to look up their names again. I can't believe I'm forgetting this.
You're a music man. How dare you?
I know. It's terrible. God damn it, IMDb, you're terrible.
He's a music man.
So, Bebe and Luis Barron, who they basically made on some of the first synthesizers that were commercially available. They made electric tonalities, and throughout the film are these weird ambient tones and just strange sounds. There's never like an instrumental score as we typically understand it. And ever since this movie came out, people have been making what's called a Krell patch, where whatever system you're working on, you rig it up to basically make self-generating music. So it's just it's randomness controlled, and you set it up and then you step away. And I've done this on my own music channel before. Like, you can just leave it alone for 10 minutes if it sounds cool and just let it go. And it's fantastic and super influential. And what's really fucked up is the fact that because they weren't part of the unions back then, they were not allowed to get awards for the music that they did in this film. Because it technically wasn't a score. Yeah, a little messed up.
This movie has technical achievements in a lot of ways. I think
it won an Academy Award for technical effects.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah,
but not for the music, which is very unfortunate because the two absolutely coexist together so damn well.
Oh yeah.
You can't really separate them.
No, it's just like the idea of eerie electric ambience in a sci-fi film. This totally didn't create it, but definitely established that as a very common trope. And
right, yeah,
man. But so that's this is definitely my favorite part of the movie. Is just Morbius talking about the Krell and going through the Krell stuff. It's just such a visual and auditory feast.
Oh, me too.
And great world building. Great, this is a mythology that's fascinating. Yeah. It's what's saddening is I'm thinking are we going to see the Krell at some point? But we never do. But
I actually like that we never see the Krell.
Same.
I like the fact that there's a mythology and all we know is based off what Morbius has found. For example, he's clearly this was when he's showing the machine that will eventually lead to
boost your intellect.
Your intellect. He says, well, you could tell this was made for a bigger head. I'm like, oh my gosh, could you this is so cool. This is anthropology at his at it's right. Yeah.
That's something that a lot of later media doesn't bother with.
It reminds me a lot of Prometheus and Alien Covenant, where like there's parts I love about Prometheus of just the fact that they're just building this world and they're traveling out there, and just being in the alien environment is scary enough. And then they show everything, and it's, you know, kind of just becomes a bit stereotypical after that. But like, just the restraint shown in setting up a world and planting an image in your head, but not spoiling it for you, is such a rarity these days. So it's so refreshing to go back and watch it.
Just a quick note. I think Prometheus has the opposite, not opposite problem, but like, I feel like the first half of Prometheus is the best part and is like just astounding. And the last half really sucks so much.
Yeah. But
it
becomes an alien movie, and then you have to run from the alien.
But it goes off the rails.
Yeah.
Really off the rails. But with this one, it's the first half it's not bad. It's not like Prometheus where it's just like, oh my God, what am I watching? But yeah, the best part, but both of them share the same best parts. It's the world building. It's learning about the world, but not just learning about the world through talking, but by showing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we gotta get back to the plot here. So, Morbius basically says, this is who the Krell are. That's all I know. I've been expanding my intellect with this intellect expanding machine, and it would kill a lesser man. I barely survived. Look how cool I am.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm Morbius. I'm the fucking best.
He only survived because he's chaotic evil.
Through sheer
You have to be
charisma
chaotic
alone.
evil to use that device.
Sorry, he's probably more lawful evil, but still.
And you know what's great is all these little bits have been setting up for the big reveal later, and they do such a good job with this. They talk about how the Krell were all wiped out in a single night.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know why. And then Morbius also mentions they were working on a technology to do stuff by creating things with the power of thought.
Yeah.
And yet his daughter never stumbled upon. Here's the thing.
Well, I just think I think that she knew just that the stuff was there. I just don't think her dad ever let her use any of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, she knows how to
it's an element of the story that's never elaborated on. So anything can be true.
No. I don't think he kept it secret.
It's almost like it doesn't matter because women and science don't go together.
And that's the other weird thing. It's like, okay, well, does she have this weird power over the animals? Did she inherit some of that from her father?
She has an emotional power over the animals.
I like how we say this, and yet we're like, we have a female scientist within our midst. I mean, we do.
You can talk to tigers, right?
Yes.
Okay. Good.
I'm working on that.
I ordered
technology.
like 7. They're going to be on the ship soon, and I don't know how to talk tiger, so you're going to have to talk to them.
Will they get along with Space Kitty?
Oh, I'm sure she'll wrangle them all.
We'll have to form a pact with them.
That makes sense.
So he goes on about that, and I forget where the conversation ends, but basically the soldiers have to go back to their ship, and they set up a force field, a perimeter around, and they have all their adorable laser guns out, and they test that, and they're ready. They're ready for it.
Oh, you know what it is, actually, is they're still doing all this while the guy in charge, which is setting up the perimeter fence, and
quartermaster,
yeah. So, and that's when that's the second part where the cook goes out and he gets his alcohol.
He gets his booze on.
His 80,000 proof pure.
So,
pure
explain it a little bit better. What does he do?
So he talks to Robbie and says, can you make alcohol?
Robbie, old chum.
Robbie, old chum. And he gives him a little sample of it. And Robbie goes, oh, yeah, this is just simple alcohol. I can do this. I'll be back. How much do you want? I'm like, well, how much can you make? And I forget
7 gallons or 70 gallons, something ridiculous.
Yeah, like just tons. And I thought that when he was going to produce it, he was going to give like gallon barrels. No, he does little like glass flasks. So it's hundreds and hundreds of them. And I'm thinking, how the hell are you going to get that back all on the ship when you're trying to sneak in and out of the perimeter? So it was just, it was funny.
Again, Krell technology allows you to make something seemingly from nothing. So
True.
One of the things that I was so we mentioned how like something did sneak on the ship, but we never see it. But then the second time when it sneaks on the ship, it's like crushing. Like you could clearly see it crushing the
steps.
Yeah.
And like you can see footprints. I'm like, why was this not seen before? Why did this not happen? Like
no, they're just adding some drama to see the audience being able to see him.
Well, but he would have the weird creature would have made similar impressions the first time. Why didn't it? Like, why didn't they say, "Hey, the stairs are fucked"?
Because Morbius was more angrier this time.
Oh, so like the creature evolved.
Hey, the stairs are.
He used more power to create this creature, therefore it's heavier.
Well, didn't they take a cast of the footprint the first time and said it's
that was the second time.
That was second. Okay, maybe you're right, Papreeka.
The first time.
They said something's up. That's why we got to get to his smart machine and get ourselves smarter.
Right.
Yeah, because whatever gets into the ship basically kills the one guy on board.
Some guy.
I can't remember.
Commander, we don't know.
There's not many other characters in this that actually matter.
They all look alike, so.
Not really. There's about 4 or 5.
Yeah. And even then I have a hard time telling them apart.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that happens, and then they guard up for the night, and then the creature starts attacking the perimeter. And this is where Disney comes in, if either of you want to talk about that.
Yeah, that's a great... Okay, the animation there is really good. You can tell it's definitely hand-drawn 2D animation, but it works well with, like... it is... Like, how it connects with the real world, it does feel...
It has weight to it. I think what's interesting is you only see it because it's pushing through the perimeter fence, and then it's being shot at constantly by these little, like, what are they, electron beams? Like
those just whatever
blaster
photon
bolt.
Blaster, plasma shots.
Little pieces of purple light.
They do call their guns blasters, and I think is that where they kind of got the sci-fi name that would eventually George Lucas would utilize?
I think
so. Whatever entered George Lucas's mind, it's possible. Anything's possible.
I mean, that's true.
To Lucas's credit, the blasters in Star Wars work a lot better than these. They look like they have to them.
This is the era in which George Lucas was basing Star Wars around too.
Right.
He was watching stuff like this. Like this is.
That's what I meant. Like this is like Flash Gordon and other sort of sci-fi, older sci-fi like that. I just know that anyway, I mean, I'm deviating. I just thought about the point that they call them blasters, and I thought that's such a sci-fi just trope now. You call your gun a blaster, and I feel like that comes up most often in Star Wars, but But
I think a lot of sci-fi films.
I have to wonder how, because a lot of like what we see in later media, this movie has a genuine influence over. But I wonder how much other stuff had an influence on this movie.
Ooh, good point.
It's not clear to me.
We'd have to go back and watch older stuff.
Sci-fi.
Well, not even watch. Think of like the sci-fi comics from like the 30s. I don't doubt that.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's definitely a Ray Punk aesthetic, a gothic Ray Punk aesthetic to this.
I love it.
It's delicious. It's one of my
favorites. I love the way the creature looks. So you only get its outline because of these things, and basically to me it looks like a giant bulldog.
It's kind of like a bulldog with an upright lizard with kind of a lion. Yeah, it's this very otherworldly, slightly recognizable thing. And that does a very good job of kind of communicating to the audience that it's something beyond our comprehension, and everyone is fucked if it gets through.
No doubt. It definitely has weight to it. And I like how, in order to make sure it has weight to it, they have three crewmen decide to be complete idiots and run right up into punching range, and it gores them to death.
Jerry is one of them.
And Jerry is one of them.
And Jerry died.
It actually picks him up and throws him aside.
He never
which is a pretty
neat
piece of animation.
Well, he's like, dude, I understand. Like, he says, hey, that chick? Yeah, I understand. Like, it's like Jerry, because Jerry makes out with
Altera.
I was trying to think of her nickname. I think it's Alta. That's her nickname.
I think it is Alta.
Yeah.
But yeah, he makes out with her earlier, but then it's like, It's almost like a hey bros before hoes, man. Like there's that like quick moment between them, and then all of a sudden Jerry's like, I'm gonna sacrifice myself. Jerry, no, we had a bro moment.
A broment.
We had a broment.
He had a broment. Jerry had a broment before he kissed Altera.
So, quick question. Can we be sure that Morbius did not also create Altera from his mind?
No, we can't. But why would he make up his dead wife?
Yeah, that's
maybe.
true.
I mean, it's just an interesting dynamic.
I do like that idea though, because now we have to wonder.
And also, he dies. Okay, spoilers. Morbius dies.
He dies to his own ego.
Yeah,
So-
Literally.
Literally. But I mean, wouldn't his daughter disappeared when he dies?
Yeah, that's the thing.
No, dude. Is that established? Is that the stuff that's created from your mind disappears when you die?
Well, think about it this way. The Krell and whatever they created also disappeared when they died, which means that the id monsters that they spawned that immediately just slaughtered the lot of them also vanished. So
that's a fair point.
Yeah, so when Morbius dies, they're no longer under threat from the id, the creature.
Right.
The creature is a psychic projection of Morbius. And he doesn't know he's creating it. It's his subconscious projected by the planet's computers. The planet's technology.
He's just using it to be like this machine just to make himself smarter, and
he doesn't realize that he was basically the one. It gets revealed as this goes on. I realize we're skipping a lot, but that's okay. I think we're in the home stretch.
Yeah, pretty much.
He's the one who basically killed the entire research crew of the previous vessel and destroyed the vessel itself.
Not really. I mean, okay.
Well, he realizes that it's kind of his fault because,
yeah, he says that the rest of the expedition was killed by a planetary force and that their starship was vaporized as the last survivors tried to lift off. Now, how much of that is true? How much of that is him covering for himself? He's a very unreliable narrator.
Yeah,
so actually, I like the fact that Papreeka brought this up because, who knows what on this planet is his creation and what is the Krell's original stuff.
Well, here's another thought too. How much of that is also Morbius kind of lying to himself?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he really does seem to show like general remorse at the end when he realizes that this thing that's been killing the crew of the current ship and is closing in on them is something that he inadvertently created with his own mind.
Well, he washed his hands from it from the beginning. So
I think that was just I think that was him denying it so hard that he believes it, and his
believes
brain
it has nothing to do with him
so far that it can do that. It can shield him and Altera, but no one else. So, which kind of basically we're at the ending. Yeah, so they find out, the Doctor and Captain Adams go and they try to use the intellect expander machine. It kills the Doctor, and they basically they're being stalked by the invisible force inside the compound, and the Doctor, before he dies, tells Adams that it's monsters from the id. And they eventually find out, Morbius, with your expanded intellect, you're basically making up these things and it's killing everybody. You got to live up to your horrible, horrible actions. And he does, and it kills him. And there's this big fight before that about how Altera wants to leave and be with her new beau, because that was completely necessary. And
that's a plot point too, because the whole reason it starts coming after them is his subconscious is going, man, fuck these guys. Gonna take my daughter away. I'll kill the fuck out of him. But he doesn't really feel that. But the deep animal primal part of him is like, nah, fuck this. So that's when the monster starts coming for them.
The other fun thing that I think they do really well in the movie is portray just how much power that this monster is capable of having with the dials in the background.
Oh yeah.
Because each dial is meant to represent an order of magnitude of some unit of power. And until now, it had only been at 1, and there's something like 60 dials there.
Yeah, and they're spiking like big time.
Yeah,
and they even say we're behind the blast doors. It's the thickest thing ever, thickest matter in the universe. No one can get through it, and it just starts melting through it. Like that's how
it's a powerful visual. Yeah.
Open the blast doors. Open the blast doors.
Seriously. Those blast doors. Yeah, no. Lucas totally lifted that too. They look exactly like the blast doors.
Well, in the end, Morbius sort of sacrifices himself in order to keep this thing from... He owns up to his actions by basically allowing this thing to kill him.
Yep.
Sacrifices himself.
Yeah, and then the beast disappears because he dies and takes it with him, basicly.
So the other question: how did he die, and why was the beast after him?
It mauled him, I guess.
Why was he angry with himself now? This is like a psychological question.
It is. It's very kind of metaphysical what exactly happens, but you could argue it's Morbius. Almost said Morpheus. It's Morbius admitting that humanity, and this is something he said, humanity cannot be trusted with this power, but he didn't want to believe that he couldn't. He thought he was special, but at the end, it's him admitting to himself, I also am not responsible or powerful enough to handle this. So he kind of rescinds his power. He rescinds this thing that's elevated him to some superhuman, demigod status, and then it kind of takes his mortality as he shuffles it loose, this mortal coil, I guess.
It's pretty rad.
It sounds complicated.
It's a very quick thing, but you could think pretty deep about it. But the point is,
it all
that
happens off camera.
Because you mostly just see the dials, because I guess they didn't want to show, they already had their budget of the monster mauling like 3 crewmen. They didn't want to show it mauling Morbius, or they didn't want to show him just thrashing at some invisible force. That might have been too silly.
Yeah,
maybe.
But
even though they didn't show it, it was still dramatically satisfying.
Oh, it was.
I
did not. I was not satisfied. I think what they didn't show made it better, in that they just showed all the dials freaking out and then falling silent, and that just shows to show, okay, it's over.
You mean to tell me that showing restraint in a movie is a good thing? I don't know where you're getting that.
No.
Well,
I didn't say that.
That's an
didn't
archaic practice that is no longer in effect these days.
I think
we haven't done that since the 50s.
The weirdest part of the movie is when T-Rex pops in, the CG T-Rex, and starts like eating all the crewmen. I thought that part was weird.
Yeah. Remember that part when this 2 storks suddenly came in and started singing a silly song? How weird was that?
Oh, it hurts.
That's the real monster of your id coming through.
Yeah.
And you can probably guess where this goes. It's a somewhat happy ending with Altera going with a space submarine full of virile young men.
And then the planet gets destroyed, doesn't it?
Yep. Planet blows up.
They decide that, I can't remember how they sabotage it, but they do. And they're like, okay, good. Let's make sure that no one can ever get access to this Krell technology, except they have a piece of Krell technology with them in Robbie, who they brought along.
Well, see, that's okay because Robbie makes really good alcohol.
That's true.
They're going to need it when they realize that dormant Krell technology could someday awaken in Robbie, and that could lead to an amazing sequel.
Oh my God, that should be the sequel. What happens when Robbie becomes self-aware to a point where he develops his own id? Holy crap.
Isn't that what Short Circuit kind of is?
I suppose. Oh, wait.
Well, and that's basically it. The movie just kind of ends with the destruction of Altera, or not Altera. Basically, well, I feel like it's going to lead to her destruction.
And then one little lady alone in a submarine full of men.
Quick,
a
shove her off into the airlock.
Yeah, one night she realizes that this is not worth it, and she just goes, well, bye, bitches, and then she launches herself out the airlock.
She climbs inside Robbie, and they just float out into space.
Yeah, and Robbie can keep her alive indefinitely.
Oh yeah, don't they take Robbie too with them?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're like, cool, we can keep Robbie at least. We have to destroy all technology.
At least we have an unlimited source of stuff now.
That's true.
And that's when Robbie came back to Earth. That's when we got cell phones. So
Robbie could effectively end world hunger to a degree.
Oh my gosh, that's right. There's a replicator, so.
Yeah, he's got the only replicator in this universe.
He's the one who starts the world of Star Trek. He is the god that...
Robbie spelled backwards is Starfleet, so that makes sense.
When is I'm trying to remember what year like Kirk is born, because depending on the timing.
It's like the 24th century, 23rd century.
Oh yeah,
5th, something like that. So not too long after.
So this could easily be pre-Star Trek.
There you go.
You could put them in the same.
I
universe.
didn't realize there were saucers between us and Star Trek.
Yep.
Well, I mean,
there's the
considering
saucer sections and the ships on the
Yeah.
Enterprise that could detach.
they've
Totally.
improved the hyperdrive technology on the by the time they got to Starfleet level of building those starships. So the ships have gotten better. They've evolved.
Although right now it's early 21st century, and this spaceship that we're on is pretty high tech. It's pretty chill.
Thank you. I worked very hard on it.
Yeah.
You can't have it, and it's not yours.
Well, we weren't asking for it. We just.
We were
I'm talking to humanity.
Oh. Well, I know I know we still have a ways to
We're
go.
not representatives of humanity. We can
Oh,
assure you that.
Lord, no.
We are going to need all Excedrin you currently have on your person to confiscate.
Cannot allow that.
Get the brain wiper.
So we will only allow you to go back to Earth if you promise to rid the world of Excedrin.
Yeah, I can't promise
On
that.
the Excedrin factory.
Can we rid the world of wait, there's a compromise. We stop the production of Excedrin, but all current Excedrin only goes to Kaela
Yes, please. And David, too.
and me. So that way we can burn through the entire supply every time we get a minor migraine or tension headache.
We are not endorsed by Excedrin.
Yeah.
Not
or
sponsored
any of
by
its
Excedrin.
knockoff brands.
I can't wait for
this is-
a YouTuber to be sponsored by Excedrin and see that paid promotion.
Oh, my God.
It's going to be so weird.
Hey, working with YouTube is a real headache, but you know what I have?
Just starts chugging the bottle of Excedrin.
Oh, what? Demonetized again? Well,
Oh,
don't
no.
worry. Got the Excedrin.
Someone needs to make this fake ad now. It's brilliant.
Yes.
Well, all right. Closing thoughts about Forbidden Planet.
More like Forbidden Ruins of Alderaan because it's not there anymore.
Oh,
Aw.
did George Lucas lift that too?
What, the destruction of a planet?
Alderaan,
Oh, come on. Now
Altair.
we're reading a little too much into that. No,
You
come
shut
on.
your mouth.
In the earliest drafts of Lucas's script, though, the planet that was destroyed was Organa, which later became Leia's surname.
Which I've always
Wait,
liked that
really?
name. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Leia Organa.
That's her
All
surname.
right.
Yeah.
All right. Shit.
And
Let's read into every decision that George Lucas has ever made. Turn it into a
Jawas.
podcast.
although, funny enough, I'm currently reading the book, The World According to Star Wars.
Uh-huh.
And it's not as much in depth about the history of Star Wars. I mean, it delves into it a little bit, but it's more like how has Star Wars as influenced the world itself? But it's
Oh,
just
sure.
like, jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's fascinating is watching the behind the scenes videos about the making of the prequels in the original trilogy.
Uh-huh.
It is this weird, almost surreal look into just Lucas and like the very, very, very talented people around him that made all these amazing things. It's just so weird to watch because I'm not a big fan of the prequels. They have a lot of problems, but just watching people working on it, it gives you a special appreciation for it.
Oh, yeah.
It's weird, man.
I've
So
always
weird.
felt like the prequels were a hodgepodge of good ideas smashed together in a way that doesn't have a lot of great cohesion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An
Yeah.
unsatisfying execution.
Exactly.
Lots of potential, but
Which is all, in the end, George Lucas's fault.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
I'm sorry, pod racing is pretty rad, but just not in the context it's used.
that pod
I know
racing video game is the shit.
It really is.
I know you guys review sci-fi movies, but have you guys ever seen Fanboys?
No.
Yes.
Okay,
I have.
So that movie is actually takes place during in 1999, like months before the new Star Wars movie or the first the Phantom Menace comes out,
Mhm.
and it's from the point of view of Star Wars fanboys. If I can do a recommendation, I totally recommend that. I would if you guys decide to review it, I will jump on that in a heartbeat. Like,
Sure. It's
That-
been a while since I've seen it. I was gonna make a spoiler here, but I'm not gonna. It's a fun one, but never mind.
Like that is such a love letter to the sci-fi genre. It is. I gotta show it to you sometime.
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
Okay.
We'll do it.
Cool.
All right. Yeah.
All right.
Well, Forbidden Planet, awesome, influential sci-fi movie. Thank you, everyone.
A bit of a tedious watch, but definitely worth it for all of the
Yeah.
the
Set
history.
aside some good time if you're going to watch it. Don't have anything else going on that can distract you. You're going to be bored and going to cringe at a good portion of this movie, but it is definitely worth it for these standout parts.
Oh yeah, it definitely. I feel like the good parts outweigh the bad parts.
Oh, definitely.
By a large margin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's a significant hiccup, but no, it's awesome to watch.
You can tell why it has the staying power it does, and this is coming from someone who's watched a lot of quote unquote B movies, and this is not a B movie. It has the trappings of one, but it's not one.
Yes.
I feel like B movies attempted to be what this was, and because they failed in execution, they're B movies. This is what B movies aspire to be.
Yes. That's why they're called B movies. they want to be Forbidden Planet.
Don't we all want to be Forbidden Planet?
I don't know. I don't want to get blown up at the end.
Sometimes I want to expand my intellect to the point where I make invisible monster demons with my brain.
Hey, I'm good work.
So are we? Do you guys zap us back, or do we?
Yeah. Wait. When's a good time to like cut off the transmission? That's the main thing.
In 3, 2. Give me all your Excedrin.
No! Wait. No.
Raygun Readers is created and hosted by Papreeka and Abysmii. Dr. Mulligar is voiced by King Mob. Rachel Droid is voiced by Lady Spade. Music and editing by Abysmii. Art and animation by Beth Morton. Today's movie discussion is about Forbidden Planet. If you like the podcast, you can listen and download Season 2 episodes from SoundCloud. You can also subscribe to the Raygun Readers channel on YouTube, links in the description. If you want to support the show, consider leaving a like, comment, or sharing this episode. If you would like to submit your story for critique, contact Abysmii, links in the description below.